Hello, everyone. I am Sarah Simon. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator coming to you from a beautiful Appleton, Wisconsin. Hello, Mary and Karen and Kelly and Mary Stamps. Thank you so much for joining me. Mary, thank you for sharing as well. Hello, Linda. I'm so excited to be with you tonight. Different time at night. I have to say that it's a little crazy. My goal was to get out of work by 3:30 or 3:45 today. I went in early enough so that I could get out at that time. But best laid plans never work. So I got home about 20 after 4. And I had 2 cards made last night and I was just out of creativity. So I ended up going to bed and said, well, I'll get home and I'll make a card when I get home. Well, I got home late and that just didn't happen. So we have 2 cards tonight. So I still have 2 cards that I'm going to share with you. I also have some exciting Stampin' Up! News to share with you as well. Hello, Betty and Cheryl. And thank you for sharing, Linda. I wanted to share with you some of the happy mail that I received. So I received this beautiful birthday card from Kelly Wildenberg, who is one of my customers. And look at this cutie. Hey, Chick. Now we've got Hey, Chuck to go with Hey, Chick. And then that's from Diane, who's on my team and also a customer. Thanks, Karen, for sharing. Then I received this beautiful hydrangea card from one of my friends and customers, Becky Weisky. And look at this beauty. I think Karen shared this as my creative challenge. And it is beautiful, that pansy set. That's from Karen Roofing. And then look at this one. Oh, this reminded me of lilacs, and I love lilacs. They remind me so much of my grandma because she had lilac bushes right outside of her house. So that's what my dog Lila was named after that. So my grandma and I had a really, really special bond. And so when I got a dog, I needed to somehow name her for my grandma who passed away when, oh gosh, it's been about no, longer than that. It's probably been about 31 years ago my grandma passed away. And so, thank you, Cheryl. We had a really, really special bond. And so when I got a dog, I needed to somehow have her remind me of my grandma. So I just took the word lilac and took the C off. And that's how I got my Lila's name. I'm surprised she didn't come in here after she heard her name. So that is happy mail that I have to share with you today. I also wanted to share with you a couple of things that are coming up with Stampin' Up! And with me. So the first thing is starting on Thursday, June 1st, there is a designer series paper sale, 15% off. Most of the designer series paper that is in the catalog, as well as the Hello Resistible. So I wanted to let you know of that. It does go the entire month, but if a paper would happen to go, let's say, out of stock, then they will not honor that unless the paper comes back in stock again before the sale is out. So it's not like you can order it and get it. So if there's a paper that you really like and you want to take advantage of this sale, I would probably get it towards the beginning of the month instead of waiting until the end of the month. Hello, Mary. Thank you for joining me. And then Stampin' Up! Also announced that they are going to have a special on the starter kit. Normally for $99, you get to purchase you get to get for $99, you get $125 in free merchandise for that. Now you get $155 for the month of June. And so I wanted to let you know that you do have to pay sales tax on that, but there is no shipping on that. So if you would like a discount, you do not have to do what I do. You do not have to have parties. You do not have to sell to customers. If you like a discount and would like to just pass that discount along to yourself, you can join and be a discount shopper and get at least a 20% discount to start out with on your orders. And so if you are interested in that, feel free to reach out to me, but that begins on Thursday as well. And then I've been talking about it, so I thought I would put a little flyer up here, used stamp sales. So June 8th, which is a Thursday, I am going to have out just my stuff at my house, which is 4102 North Crane Drive in Appleton, from 4:30 until 6:30. You can stop in and shop any of the stuff that I am getting rid of. And then on Saturday, June 10th, from 8:30 a.m. until 3:30 p.m., at my friend Kathy's house, and I have her address there in Sherwood, Wisconsin, there are demonstrators and people from all over the area. So if you don't get it at my place, at my house, let's say something sold out that you wanted, you could check there because there are a lot of demonstrators bringing their stuff. And most of us that do demonstrating as a business like to get rid of the stuff that is retired, because we can't really use that in our classes and in our workshops because people can't buy it. And so a lot of us get rid of that stuff so that we can purchase things that we can use in our business, so that people can see stuff that they can actually purchase. So there is a lot of stuff there for you to look at. And so I thought I would share those dates and locations and times for anyone who is local and would like to participate. Okay, we have some prizes to give away as well. So last week we made the birthday queen. We also played with this, is it Dainty Details? No, it's not Dainty Details. That wouldn't make sense. I can't remember the name. It's something Details. But it had this beautiful frame and then this floral image. And we also used some of that white center paper. And then we also made this Trust the Lord with All Your Heart. And this actually is a easel card. So receiving this and I also have the envelope sitting here for the person, for making a comment last week. So anytime you place a comment, and here are all the places that I check. I check in YouTube Live. I check in YouTube after. Thank you, Karen, darling details. I check my blog. I check YouTube, and any place where there is a comment, I put those names into a drawing. So receiving these for commenting last week is Tammy Litsky. So Tammy, I will get these in the mail to you, and I do have your address. And then if you share, so if you hit share in YouTube, you hit share in Facebook, wherever you're able to log in. I know some people haven't figured out the whole logging in and making comments on YouTube, and I get that. So if you go back to Facebook and you do it, I am checking there. And so receiving a pack of the Neutrals Adhesive Back Sequins. So there's gold, and there is pecan pie, and there is silver, and there's like a copper on here, is Jeanne Collar. And I believe it said you were from Oregon. I do not have your address, Jeanne. So if you could send me a private message, either in an email, createwithsarahllc@gmail.com, or you can send it in a private message through Facebook, and give me your address, and I will get those off in the mail to you. And then receiving, for placing an order, you always get your name, and in receiving this Friendship Royalty, this is not an autographed copy. So if you have already checked or tried to get or put your name on the list or paid for an autographed copy from Kelly, and you already have this, just let me know and I will get you something else. But receiving this for placing an order last week is Shanna Roberts. And of course I have your address, Shanna, because you placed an order. So thank you to all of you who helped to support my business. I really, really appreciate it. And for all of you who tune in, it's much nicer to talk to a bunch of people than to be sitting here making a video and not have any feedback. So thank you for all of you who said that you shared. Congratulations to the winners. Thanks, Kelly. And yeah. So next week, this week I was planning to do some manly cards, some masculine cards, but I'm going to hold off for that until next week. I just was not in a creative mood for some reason yesterday. I had a whole bunch of swaps that I had to make, and so I was cutting and putting those together. I also had to create a couple of swaps. So some of the cards that we're going to be doing tonight are swaps that I created, and then I made like 10, 11, 12 of them for some of the swaps that I'm in. The one that I had to make 20 of, my mom's like, why did you take something that was so difficult? So let's see. I don't think I have. Oh, yeah, I do. I have it sitting here. So remember when Mary sent me that card and we had this one that looked like this? I did this card with all of these panels that I had to cut. Plus, I didn't want 4 1/8 inch cut on this because I wanted it to keep it to 4. So I had another panel of boho blue for this. And so I made 21 of these. I did the back a little bit different. But yes, I did 21 of these for a swap. And my mom and my sister were helping me when we were at the cottage because I was going absolutely nuts. And I stayed up until, I think it was about 3:10 in the morning on Friday morning when I finally went to bed, and probably fell asleep about 3:30ish because I had to let Lila out for a little bit. But anyway, it was crazy, and I still wasn't finished. So I brought it with me to the cottage, and they helped me finish. So I'm going to do masculine cards. My brother's birthday is a week from Sunday, so I have a birthday coming up that I have to do, and also Father's Day is coming up. So I'll get you some ideas for those men in your life, because sometimes those cards can be hard to make. So we'll use the fish die. I also have the motorcycle. I also have... let's see, I have the car. He's all that with all of that stuff. So we'll come up with a couple. I'll try to do 3 cards for sure next week since I'm only doing 2 this week. But we'll come up with a bunch of manly ideas for next week. Okay, I went through all the advertisements. Oh, and of course my phone disconnected. So let me see if I can connect my phone here. See if it'll connect for me. I apologize for that. I've been talking too long. I think I need to, let's see here. I think I have to go to it and I will try to connect it again. I'm still not sure why it does this. I thought that I had, there we go, allow, and it should pop up here. Okay, now I got to do this, and I think we are good. Now, if it'll only stay connected, I obviously have to turn my overhead light off because I've got lots of shadows. Let me get up and do that, and then we will get to work on our first card. Okay, I think that is better. Yes, much better. Okay, sorry if I made you a little dizzy there with the camera. I'm looking back. There's such a delay that you're just seeing that, and I've already moved on. So, all right, the first card is going to be using some of this Delightfully Eclectic paper. Since we're having the sale on DSP, both of my cards today really feature some of my favorite of the DSP. So this pack is normally $30, but you get 48 sheets that are 12 by 12. So there are 12 different patterns. There are 2 sides to each one, and you get 4 sheets of each pattern. So like you get these 2 patterns on one sheet, and then you get 4 of those sheets. So there's this side, and then, there's also these. So we're going to be using this pattern here today. I just love those little tulips, having Dutch heritage. And then we're going to pair it with one of these papers that's on the other side as well. Okay, this first card does not require any sort of a Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. It's kind of what I like to call a sip card. I'm using stamp ink paper. I am using some Stampin' Blends, but I count that as ink. Some people don't, but I do. All right, I do not have these typed up yet. I will type them up as soon as I'm finished here tonight. We're going to be using this stamp set that's called Just My Type. So you might be looking at that and saying, why would she buy a stamp set that has a typewriter and paper? I basically bought it because I loved this little stamp right down here. I loved this hello. I loved this greeting with the little rainbow, and I loved this little flower. I don't know if I'll use the typewriter. I've seen some really cute things with the typewriter, and we've got some black and white paper that I think would look cute with that, and I've seen some cute things, but I basically bought it for some of the other stamps that are in there. It's a standalone stamp set that isn't very expensive, and I thought, I really want to have that, so that I have that. So we're going to be using a couple of these stamps that I loved in that stamp set. All right, Fresh Freesia and Misty Moonlight and a little bit of Crushed Curry are going to be our color combination tonight. So this first piece is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and this is Fresh Freesia. I have a basic white that measures 4 by 5 1/4. And then I have, we're going to be doing, this is kind of an overlapping, kind of like a hinged card. So the left-hand side is a little bit bigger. That one is 3 1/2 by 4. So this is 4, this is 3 1/2, and I scored this at 1/2 inch on that 4-inch side so that when I fold it over, I have a square that measures 3 1/2 by 3 1/2. Okay, my right hand hinge, I'm doing kind of the same thing. So I started with 3 by 3 1/2. I scored at the 1/2 inch side so that I'm going to put this hinge though on the right hand side. It's 3 by 3 inches when I'm finished. Okay, this was 3 1/2 by 3 1/2, so this is 3 1/4 by 3 1/4 because that's going to be layered on there. I have some basic white. This was 3 by 3, so this is 2 3/4 by 2 3/4. Super easy fun fold for you. And then these two pieces each measure 3/4 inch by 4 inches. Okay, so those are all of the pieces of paper that we need. And then I brought in a piece to decorate up our envelope to match that. So I'm going to start with both of my pieces of basic white, and I'm going to keep these together, all of these little stickies, Post-its, because like I said, I do have to type this up yet. I do have to take some pictures. It was a little bit late last night by the time I finished this one, but I did finish it. So I do have a Facebook Live today. I'm going to be using some Misty Moonlight ink. All right, and I've got my stamps here that I'm going to pull out. I also have some blends that we're going to be using to color in some of those flowers, and I'll share those colors with you in a little bit. And then we're also going to be using some of this Misty Moonlight with this white, kind of like a, I don't know, what would you call that, chevron in the middle. And you can color that. I did test it to see if I colored it with the Fresh Freesia, what it would look like, and you can actually color it. I'm tying it into a knot, so I didn't know how it would look with being in a knot, so I opted to keep it white for this. Okay, let's open up our ink pad. We are going to stamp this floral image. I'm going to stand up as I stamp so I can see a little bit better. Okay, I'm going to stamp that kind of towards the top. Now this is a square, so it doesn't matter. Both top and the bottom are the same. I'm going to be stamping for you, and that's going to be down the bottom a little bit. I am keeping a space here so that I have a space for my ribbon. And then for the inside of my card, I am going to, what do I have on there? Let's flip this over. I have this stamp that says, I hope your day is filled with sunshine and rainbows. And so I'm going to stamp that on the inside towards the center. And then underneath it, I'm going to stamp that little rainbow. Isn't that cute? I mean, super, super simple stamp set, but when you put it all together, it turns out kind of cute. Okay, so we are going to color this. So I know these aren't really colors of the rainbow per se, but they're the colors that I'm choosing to use. So I've got a little bit of light bubble bath that we're going to use. And I'm plugged in. I plugged in my computer today. I plugged in my phone today. I remembered all of that. Okay, so I'm going to do some bubble bath. And this is a dark daffodil delight because we do not have a crushed curry. Hi, Sarah. Are you done with school, Sarah? We go till Friday. We've got a half a day on Friday. And let me tell you, the kids are wound up. At one of the campuses, we had field day today. Another campus, I had to help with their talent show. And so that's another reason why I was messing around with last minute people sending me last minute music, and then it wasn't working. So then I had to contact them. And I just wanted to make sure when those kids are standing up in front of everyone that their music works, because it takes a lot of courage to get up there. So, all right, so that is our little rainbow in the colors that we're using. Hello, Becky Weisky. All right, and then we're going to color in these flowers. So I'm going to start with my fresh freesia, and this is a light fresh freesia, if you were wondering. And I'm going to color in that little tulip, and I've got, again, this is a dark daffodil because we don't have crushed curry. And then I'm going to use that bubble bath again. It's a light bubble bath. You could probably use the dark if you wanted to also. Either with any of these, you could use the dark. Okay, and then I was going to bring in a green for the leaves. Hi, Barbara from Connecticut. But when I looked at my designer paper, notice how these leaves are in a darker blue. And so I decided that I was going to take my light, Misty Moonlight. I had stamped this in Misty Moonlight. I'm going to take that and I'm just going to color in these leaves. Now, if you have really tiny things like these leaves, sometimes I just kind of like dot. I'm just putting like kind of like little dots in there so that I don't go outside of the line. I find that sometimes that is the best for some tinier images that we have to get in. And I will admit that when I use Stampin' Blends, I use my bullet point rather than my brush probably 90% of the time. I just like how much control I have with it. Unlike our Stampin' Blend marker, or our Stampin' Write markers, that the bullet point in our old markers didn't really work very well. The bullet point in these work great. Okay, we do have new Stampin' Write markers that have a better bullet point tip now. I don't know if you saw that, but all of our markers have been redesigned so that they have a nicer tip. I can grab one in a little bit and show you the difference between the two. But I'm going to go ahead and get this put together, and then we can go ahead and do that. All right, these little strips are going to go on the top and the bottom of this inside layer. Okay, so I'm just going to line this up at the top. Oh, Sarah, you enjoy your last 2 days too. I know the kids were so wound up today. I think the teachers were a little bit relieved that this afternoon they had field day from noon until 3. It was hotter than heck, but they put a sprinkler out that the kids could run through, and they were running off all of their energy. But I felt so bad. Every single teacher looked like she needed to go home and take a nap because they were all just exhausted from being out in the heat all afternoon too. Okay, so here is our smaller. This is our right-hand side, and this is going to go on there. So I'm going to go ahead and just give this a little bit of glue. right, and then this paper is going to go on here. Those tulips, those pretty tulips. And there's some other flowers in here, but there were tulips all on here. Well, those I think are supposed to be tulips. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to add adhesive just to this little inside tab. And I'm going to hold this up and I'm going to wrap this around here. I want to have about the same amount of white space between that designer series paper and where this pieces that I'm adding from the top and bottom. I want it to be centered as best I can. When I think I have it centered, I'm just going to go ahead and give that a good press. Okay, then I'm going to do the exact same thing over here. I'm going to put just a little bit of adhesive on just that little strip. Now I'm going to center it on that left-hand side so that the DSP from the top and the bottom is pretty similar, or about the same. Okay, so that's going to look like that. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to adhere this to our card base. So we don't have a card base that folds. Instead, we added these little hinges, these little overlap pieces that create the opening piece of our card so that it does have an opening to it. It's just a very different opening. Okay, and I want to center that on there. Okay, so this opens like this and like that, and there is our greeting on the inside. I'm going to take some of this beautiful ribbon, which matches the colors that we have with the navy or the Misty Moonlight and the white. This is a little bit thick ribbon, so I am going to just tie it in a knot. And because of this white and how it looks on the back, how it's not white, when you put the end through, you kind of have to twist it to make sure that your white is going to be up. Okay, so you just have to kind of, normally it would be down, but you twist it. I apologize if you can hear my neighbor's truck. It's really loud. Last time I said that, I listened to the playback and I'm like, oh yeah, you can definitely hear it. So I'm pretty sure you can probably hear it. Cut this a little bit even, more even. And I'm just going to attach that right in between that greeting and that little floral image. Okay, so that's going to go there. And then what I did was I just took a little bit of my Wink of Stella. I'm sorry that when I moved my hand in there, I realized I just got real blurry. I'm just going to add some of my Wink of Stella to each of these flowers just to give it a little bit of shine. And I know you can't see that, but it just adds that little bit of glitter that we need to make it a little bit wow. And if you want to, you could also add it to some of these tulips as well. I sometimes add Wink of Stella to my designer series paper just to give it a little shimmer as well. So you can just color over the floral images that you want to shine or add the glitter, and it will just add glitter, and it didn't even have glitter on to start with, so it looks almost like a specialty paper that has, you know, your glitter in it. So I'm just going to go ahead and color. Now that I started coloring all of them, you could just do a couple here and there, but I started doing all of them, so I feel like I have to finish all of them. Some of these I think I did twice. I'm kind of sitting on it from the back instead of up front. I'll hold this up, and I don't know if you're going to be able to see this glimmer or not. And I don't think you can really see that sparkle that's in there, but it definitely has some sparkle to it. All right, so that is our first card, and I'll bring my envelope in here, and we'll add a little designer series paper to the envelope. Super simple card that didn't require you to have any sort of a machine, any sort of punch. The fold does all of the kind of the wow in this one, because it just folds completely different. It's not just like an open up a card type thing. Now you could jazz it up some more. We had those paper florist dies that I used a couple of weeks ago. We could have added a couple of flowers with that instead of using the stamp. But sometimes just doing a really simple stamp, especially if you have to make a whole lot. I have some thank you cards that I have to make for birthday gifts that I received, and I thought this would be a really pretty card to make. And we do have a thank you. I'll show you. They all look like they're from a typewriter because, this is that typing set. I'll show you what the thank you looks like. My thought was I could use that on this card and then write my message on the inside so that I could make some really quick thank you cards that are a little bit different than just opening up a regular card. So that is our card number 1, and this is the one that I just made right here, not this one. I'll put this back in my bucket. All right, so that is our fun, I think it's called a double overlap card. All right, so that's our card 1. Let me put a few things away here. The next one, we do have to have our Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. You could do without it if you didn't want to do one of the steps that I'm doing in it. But I had done this card before, and I haven't done it for a while. And so when I saw this paper, the Inked Botanicals, I thought this is the perfect type of designer paper that works perfect for this technique. And so this is kind of a technique slash, it's a fun fold as well. It kind of makes the card look like a quilt. So those of you who are quilters, I don't know what the quilt pattern is or if there even is a quilt pattern, but we're going to take some of these designer papers and we're going to use them as our quilting squares. All right, and that is the Inked Botanicals. And again, that is one of the 15% off items that you can get during that sale. All right, we're going to start with some Lost Lagoon. This measures 4 1/4 by 11, and I scored it at 4 1/4 and at 5 1/2. So this is going to be a book binding, one of my favorite folds. So we've got 2 fun folds today. I know it's only 2 cards, but both of them are going to be fun folds at least. All right, I have some Very Vanilla that is 4 inches by 4 inches. I have some Crushed Curry. Crushed Curry was in both of our cards today. That is 4 inches by 4 inches as well. I have another Very Vanilla that's 3 3/4 by 3 3/4. These are all kind of being layered on each other. This is Pool Party, and it's 3 1/2 by 3 1/2. It's one of the blues that's in some of the paper. Now this happens to be a Very Vanilla that's 2 1/2 by 2 1/2. This could actually be any scrap that you have lying around. It just has to be 2 1/2 by 2 1/2. You're going to cover this up completely. Nobody's going to see the color of it. So really you could take any scrap. I just happen to have Very Vanilla because I was cutting it for the other pieces. I have one pattern of my designer series paper that is 1 inch by 4 inch. And then I have 6 squares. Okay, so I'm going to put this on here. 6 squares. Each of them is 1 1/4 by 1 1/4. I have 3 patterns and 2 of each. So I have this little floral pattern that I liked. We used this last week with our one card that we did that was the easel card. I have this crushed curry that kind of has some floral images. Stampin' Up! Had a video on how they came up with this paper, how they put flowers, they dipped them in paint, and then they put them on a sheet of paper, and that's how they got these images on the paper. And then this one is in Lost Lagoon, and then it has some of that Pool Party in there. And there's also Pool Party, Lost Lagoon, and Crushed Curry in there. There's also Calypso Coral. I was doing this for a swap, and my other card that I made with this had Calypso Coral, so I wanted to use a different color combination. We also have a scrap of Crushed Curry and a scrap of Very Vanilla that we're going to be using. I brought 2 embossing folders in here. Now the one I used on my sample is this embossed brick. And I don't know how well you can see that, but it's like there's little bricks here, but every once in a while there's like kind of like some etching and stuff like that. And then I also brought in the Countryside Blossom. I thought maybe tonight I would use the Countryside Blossom, and then I can show you what the brick one looks like, and you can decide which one you like better. It's very subtle on the card, but it really makes it pop. All right, I'm going to make the quilt first, and then we will do some stamping and putting the rest of it together. So to make the quilt, I need the 2.5 by 2.5 and the 3.5 by 3.5. Okay, those are the only pieces that I need to build my quilt. Oh, and these squares. All right, so I'm going to start by picking 2 patterns. Doesn't matter which 2 patterns you're going to pick. I'm going to do this floral pattern and this one that is in Lost Lagoon. And what we're going to do, so each of these are 1 1/4, and this is 2.5 by 2.5. So when I set these on here, it should cover this entire square. That's why I said it doesn't matter what color you make that square underneath, you're going to cover it completely with your designer paper. So if you have a scrap of real red sitting around, you could use real red if you wanted to. All right, so I decided, since I was cutting Very Vanilla, that I was going to use that. So I want to make sure that I'm all the way up to the corner and that I'm going straight. So I just kind of rest my thumb against there to make sure that I haven't gone. I kind of just rub my thumb across there to kind of push it onto that square. You can trim any excess. I noticed that when I was doing mine, I had quite a bit of excess sometimes, because sometimes you cut 1 1/4 and it's just a little bit larger than 1 1/4, and sometimes you cut it and it's just a little bit shy of 1 1/4. And so if that happens to you, like it does here, you can just trim off some of that excess when you're done. Okay, and then I'm going to take the other one, and like I mentioned, we're going to be making sure that these are corners. So again, I'm going to line this up. This time I'm lining it up to here and then also to the side, and notice it does go over just a little bit, so I'll just trim that little bit off afterwards. Michelle, thank you for sharing. Thanks, Kay and Kelly, for your comments on the last card, and Mary. I sometimes get carried away with what I'm doing, and I don't always check my comments. So I apologize if I don't comment on your comment. I have gone back, and sometimes if someone has a question, I will answer it after the fact. So okay, so I'm going to flip this over, and I have a little bit hanging off the edge here. So I'm just going to go ahead and use my paper snips, and I'm going to cut that off. And I'm just going to kind of look around, and there's a little bit extra of the Very Vanilla that I'm just going to cut off there. And really with Very Vanilla, I could have let that go. I cut it off because if I had used a different color, you definitely would have seen it. Okay, now I'm going to bring in my Pool Party, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to set this square in here on an angle like that, trying to make it so that these points are at the center and that these points are at your center. Now, if you want to use a piece of lined paper, so this is 3.5 by 3.5, so this would be at 1 3/4 on both sides. Okay, so if you need to, if you want to, you could go ahead. If you have a hard time eyeballing it, I just eyeball and then I trim if I need to. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and set this down. And because I'm using liquid glue, I do have a little bit of wiggle room. So like right now, I notice that my tip is over a little bit too far here, not enough on the left. So I'm going to go ahead and set that down. Okay, that looks pretty straight to me. See how it's starting to look like a quilt? All right, next, depending on how steady you are with your hand, you could put this in your paper trimmer and cut this in half. I'm just going to use my paper snips, and I'm going to cut from corner to corner to cut this into 2 triangles. Right, I'm going to go ahead and add adhesive to the back. So I want the yellow side to be showing up. I wanted to get some yellow in there. Okay, so I'm a former math teacher, so I apologize that this is over your head, but this is a right triangle. Here's our hypotenuse, so it's across from the 90-degree angle. That hypotenuse is what we are going to always line up along the outside of our square. So here's the outside of my square, so that has to be a hypotenuse. So I'm going to set the triangle in here. And notice how it didn't come right up to the corner. That's okay. Okay, we'll trim what we have to afterwards. I'm going to skip one, and then I'm going to again add adhesive to the side. There's my hypotenuse. That has to go against the outside of the square. So I'm going to line this up. Okay, now notice I've gone over a little bit here. That's okay. I can trim this all at the end and it'll still work, I promise you. I'm going to leave this one pool party. I'm going to take my next triangle, add adhesive. Here's my hypotenuse. That has to go against the outside of the triangle, or of the square, I should say. And then same thing with this one. I'm going to skip one. Oops, that has a little bit more glue on than you want. You don't want your glue to ooze too much, because when you run this through the embossing folder, it'll ooze out and get glue on your embossing folder. So you want to make sure that you have all your glue. Okay, so here's my hypotenuse. That is going to go up against that edge. Okay, and now I'm going to flip it over, and anywhere where I have just a little bit of paper hanging over the edge, I'm just going to take my snips and snip it off so that it still keeps it as a square. And the reason this is like that is because, like I mentioned, when you go to do cutting, if you go to 1 1/4, some people might go right up to the line, some go a little bit before the line, some make sure that they're touching the line. And when you're talking about 1 1/4, all of those little like differences make a difference here. So that's why sometimes it doesn't line up exactly. Okay, I'm going to bring my Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine in. Get rid of that. Set this over here a little bit. I'm going to be using the Countryside Blossoms on the one that I'm doing tonight. I'll show you what I did yesterday, and then you can decide which one you like better. Let me get a base here. Looks like I forgot to bring that in from the other room. Here we go. I've got one in here. So we need our base, and this one is not a 3D, so I just need a cutting plate and another cutting plate. And I'm going to go ahead and take this Country Blossom. See that little thing in there? I thought that would look kind of cool. I'm going to put that right in the center of my quilt here. Okay, so it's in the center. You should always, with embossing folders, run them when you can with the folded side going in first, because of the pressure that's put on it. It keeps your folders better. Otherwise they're cracking and doing all of that kind of stuff. I'm going to go ahead and close this up as quietly as I can, because sometimes they snap. And that's really loud. Okay. Oops, I see my thing down there. It had just fallen onto the floor underneath my... I have a 3-ring binder with all those papers that I took that out of. My samples out of. Okay, look at how that... I don't know if you can see that. Oh yeah, there we can. Okay, see how that just... that pattern makes it look like the stitching that's on a quilt? Okay, so there's our quilted piece. Again, I'll show you the other one that I did with the exposed brick. I'll show you that when I finish this card, but we'll finish this one up for right now. Okay, this is going to get layered. Take this off of here. On the Very Vanilla, that's 3 3/4 by 3 3/4. Oh, if you could see this in person, the embossing. Let me see if I can get this. There we go. You can kind of see it on those pool party pieces and on the designer paper. Looks really cool. Then we're going to adhere that to the crushed curry and bring some of that yellow into this. There we have our quilt. Right, this we're going to stamp on in a little bit. This little 1-inch piece, we're going to glue along that side little binding. Isn't it nice that today was Tuesday already? Oh, I went to work and I was like, it's not Monday. Yay! All right, before I close this book binding, so this is going to come back like this, so I am going to use my bone folder to give that a good burnish and to get that a good burnish. But before I glue this together, we do have some Lost Lagoon ribbon. Sure we do. I think I have another roll up here. I think it's in the other room because I made, like I said, I had to make, last night I made 10 of these for a swap that I'm in, or 9 I think. I made 10, the one is the sample, and then I had to make 9 for a swap. So I'm just going to tie this in a knot rather than tying it in a bow. So I don't need as much ribbon for a knot. Now, you could close it up and then you could tie your ribbon afterwards, but then your ribbon will be around the outside. I'm tying it so that it's on the inside and it kind of hides the back side of the ribbon. That's why I'm tying it now before I glue it. Okay, so there is my knot. Now, if you wanted to, and I do not have any in here right now, you could use some of the tear and tape if you wanted to. You could also use some of the Stampin' Seal Plus because that is a little bit stickier. I'm just going to go ahead and make sure I put enough liquid glue on either side of the ribbon. Like you could put tear and tape on either side, and then when I close mine, I'm just going to hold it there for a little bit until my glue can start to dry. Oh, thank you, Linda. I love this quilting card. It's so easy, really, because it just has all of those squares that you have to play with and you have to cut. But if you're a quilter, that's kind of what you do with your quilting, is you're putting a whole bunch of squares together. All right, this is going to go next to that. Doesn't adding it onto that Lost Lagoon just make it even pop more? I loved this color combination, and again, it just basically came from the colors that were in the Designer Series paper. So when you get your pack of Designer Series paper, if you look on the back of the Designer Series paper, on that cardboard that comes with it, there is a list of all of the colors that are in that pack of Designer Series paper. So if you are questioning, like, I didn't really know what color this was with the Lost Lagoon, I'm like, it's a lighter blue. What color is that? So when I looked at the paper, it told me that it was Pool Party. And so I'm like, oh, Pool Party. I wouldn't have guessed Pool Party. But yeah, now that you say that, it is Pool Party. All right, I'm going to take our scraps. I'm going to bring my thing in here. We got to do a little bit of stamping for the outside and for the inside. Oh, look at here. I found the other roll of ribbon. So now I've got my 2 rolls of ribbon here. Here I thought they were over with the with my swaps. This is one of the punches, the inked and tiled. This comes with 2. And I was going to, and I still might try. I just didn't have time last night to play too much. But the other one kind of fits inside of here. And I thought about trying that almost as a quilt and seeing how that worked with paper and cutting this out and putting the next one. So the other one would go on either side of these, and it would be, let me get the punch and I'll show you what I mean. Whoops, grab the right one here, Sarah. I grabbed a circle. So if I grab this punch, this goes right inside of here. So my thought was, could I make a quilt, do that same quilt pattern with putting these? So I could put this in here and make a square and then cut the ends off. And then I could put a little piece of that inside of there. It would probably be a little bit more putsy, but I think it might work. All right, so let's see what we have here. I'm going to stamp a greeting, and now I'm going to watch, because I'm going to have a tip up at the top, and I'm going to have this as a square when I'm stamping it, because I'm going to want to offset that so that this little yellow can be showing underneath it like that. Okay, so when I stamp my greeting, I'm going to want to make sure that I have a tip up, that it's not like sideways or on a slant or anything. I want it to be a square when I'm stamping it. And I'm just going to stamp hello friend. There's also a thank you, and I thought this would be a nice thank you for some of the birthday thank yous that I have to do as well. I also am working on my upline Kelly and her husband Steve had a fire at their house. And so my friend Kathy and I were kind of helping with doing like a collection from some of the demonstrators, and anyone who was donating, we were talking, we should really send them a thank you card. And so this might be one of the thank you cards that I do. I do have a lot of thank you cards sitting around, so I said I can just take some of those. But I might. These are pretty quick to make. I'm going to stamp this floral image from the set, and then after it's stamped off once, I'm going to put it on the center of that as well, just to give it a little floral. I think I'm going to actually, let's see here. Do I have another scrap of, I think it works good. I should have put that up a little bit higher, but I think it's going to work just fine. All right, I'm not going to put anything on the inside so that I can add a greeting. It just is going to say hello friend on the outside so that I can put whatever I want on the inside. If I want to put thank you, if I want to put happy birthday, if I want to put thinking of you, I can put whatever I want on it when I'm ready to send it. Right, and then for this, I'm going to put this on a dimensional. I haven't used any dimensionals yet today. My mom and sister rocked the dimensionals for me, putting everything on dimensionals for me. Oh, thank you, Linda. Yeah, I do. And Kelly, I love these colors together. And I didn't come up with the color combination. Stampin' Up! Did. So kudos to them for putting these colors together. Okay, so I'm going to put that on there. And then I'm going to put some dimensionals on the back here. And we're going to pop that in the center like that. All right, and if you wanted to, you could throw a few, I have some pearls sitting here. Let's throw a few pearls around. I didn't put anything on my other one. I thought the ribbon was kind of bulky enough, but these pearls are really, really tiny. So let's throw a few of the pearls. I don't think I put any gems on. I should have. We'll just go ahead and throw a couple of these around here like that, just to add a little bit of bling. All right, I have an envelope. And I didn't grab designer paper, but let me see if I can quickly find that pattern. I don't know how much of that floral one I have left. Let's see. This is all of the designer paper. Isn't this amazing? I use this for one of my swaps. So I have some of that. Look at here. There's a piece cut. Let's do... This is on there. Let's just go ahead and use that. Or I could use, we didn't use that. We used this. This piece is almost perfect. Then I don't have to cut anything. See, this is how I get the stuff for my envelopes. I just look through my stuff and say, okay, what is about the size that I need? Look at that. It's perfect. I didn't have to cut anything. It was a scrap that was left from when I had cut something else. And that works perfect. So I'm going to go ahead and attach that to the envelope. And if you wanted to kind of hold that ribbon that is in the center in place so that it doesn't move, you could attach some glue dots. And oftentimes I will do that. I might put a glue dot underneath the knot. Let's see, I'm just going to pull this up so you can put it underneath the knot. And then if you want these tails to actually stay in a certain location, so if I want them to be on top of there like that and not be, I think it's fine looking like that, but if you are thinking it looks better to have it like that, you could just throw a glue dot underneath right here to hold that one in place, and you could put a glue dot under here to hold that one in place if you want it in that spot. I really don't care, so I'm just going to leave that. But that is our second card. So here is our quilted with the bookbinding fold. And then we have our SIP stamp, ink, and paper with that cute little floral set from that super cheap stamp set that just The designer paper does all of the work, and that interesting fold that we added to add a little bit of interest to this actually very simple card. All right, that is what we have today. Again, next week I'm going to do some Father's Day cards. I also, in case you jumped on late, maybe you'll go back to the beginning, maybe you won't, but I wanted to again post this. Used stamp sale at my friend Kathy's house is going to be June 10th. That one will be with lots and lots of demonstrators, and there will be a garage full of things, papers, stamps. Sometimes the old big shots are there, dies, you name it, it's there. I will, for anyone who would like to come and see what I have before I bring it to the sale, I will have it at my house from 4:30 until 6:30 on Thursday, June 8th. My address is there as well if you wanted to take a screenshot of that, if you are interested in that. Also, I mentioned it, the Designer Series paper, 15% off starting on Thursday. So this paper that we just used tonight, that what is it called? Something eclectic, delightfully eclectic, as well as that inked botanical paper. Both of those are in that sale for 15% off. And I did mention it. I'm not going to have any lights on me. Ooh, just those bright ones because I turned my overhead lights off. I did mention it ahead of time that if there was a particular paper you wanted, if it happens to go out of stock, they will not honor the sale unless it comes back into stock while the sale is still going on. So if there was something in particular that you wanted, make sure that you get it right away. I do have a new hostess code because I had to close out my May party. It had to be out by the 28th, and I closed it today, so I was only 2 days late. But that host code is down below. If you would use that when you place an order, if it's under $150, I would really appreciate it. That's what helps me get all of the prizes that I give out to all of you. So thank you so much for joining me on this Tuesday night. I will be back again Tuesday night because I will be at the cottage again this weekend. And I will have masculine cards next week. So I hope that you will be able to join me next week. If not, I will post the replay of the video on my blog and as well as on my Facebook page. So it is Tuesday, so only 3 more days left. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Only 3 more days left, and I get to go back up north again. I hope that you have a great week. If you are in Wisconsin and having this wonderful weather, enjoy it. If you have kids that are finishing up school, good luck to them. If you're a teacher finishing up school, good luck to you. Thanks again for joining me, and I hope that you find some time this week to be creative. Thank you, and have a wonderful week.